I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I'm recording. So this is our basic example with the price ceiling, and the blue area is the consumer surplus. It's a trapezoid, and we have to measure, again, both of the bases and the distance between the bases to get the height of the trapezoid and apply the trapezoid formula to calculate that area of consumer surplus. This little area down here, again, it's producer surplus, and that's a triangle. And then this triangle over here is deadweight loss. And again, if we compare that to the regular market equilibrium, then we can see that the area of deadweight loss corresponds to a portion of the consumer and producer surplus that's lost because the price ceiling causes the suppliers to supply less than they normally would. So there are a bunch of units that are no longer produced and no longer consumed. That's this distance right here. So anyway, so that's a basic overview. And if nobody has any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and go to Ignithium now for this week. This week, we're going to be working on number 10. And so let me go ahead.
We have a quick question about last week's assignment, Professor.
Okay, so hold on just a second. I think that's going to take me. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll look at last week's assignment. So this was 9. Okay, which one did you have trouble with?
I had trouble with a few of them, but specifically number 10. I guess I'm just not sure what exactly I'm looking for when it refers to gains.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a good question, right? So what are the benefits? And you'll hear economists say this a lot, and that's why we have this language in here. What are the gains from trading? What does the consumer gain? What does the producer gain? Why do we trade? Matt?
Okay. So essentially, we're taking the area of both the consumer and producer
Surplus.
Yes.
Yeah, we said producer surplus is a lot like profit, right? And
right.
the gains to consumers are, again, there's a bunch of stuff in the very beginning of your book, and if you read through it all thoroughly and you think about it, it should make a lot of sense. But a lot of the language, I think, people kind of have a tendency to sort of like read past it, or if they have to on an exam or something like that, kind of like regurgitate language, like, oh, I heard them say gains from trade, so whatever. And they never think about what it means, right? How does it relate to the other stuff we're talking about? And really, and you'll see also in the beginning of your book, there's stuff about comparative advantage and gains from trading. So like, why does it make sense for you? It looks like you have ME, so are you a mechanical engineer?
I am.
Yeah. So my sister's a mechanical engineer too.
Nice.
She actually has a PhD, and she does research in nanotechnology. So she helped design little, what a cantilever is, right? It's basically a diving board, right?
Right.
It's like, right. So she helped design molecular scale cantilevers for medical testing. The cantilevers are so small that based on how much they flex, when you put a sample of a virus on them, you can tell what virus is there.
That's wow.
Is that mind-blowing? Yeah, like pretty cool, I think. So anyway, but like, you know, this stuff is kind of like if I say cantilever to you, you know that it looks like a little diving board, but that's where we're like gains from trade. Well, what are we talking about, right? Well, for consumers, there's a stuff they talk about comparative advantage and gains from trade, and it's like why, Matt, you know, would we go to you to design, you know, a combustion engine or something like that? Well, you're going to have a lower cost of doing that because of your skills. If I, as an economist, try to design a combustion engine, I will probably not, I'm not saying like I could never do it, but obviously I would be a lot less efficient, right? I'd probably design a bunch of engines that would blow up because I don't really know what I'm doing and maybe eventually figure something out. But you would probably blow up a lot fewer engines first and come out with something that was really good, right?
I sure would hope so.
Well, yeah. And so like I would go and buy Matt's engine instead of buying Dr. Hunter's engine because one, you know, or trying to make one of my own because your cost, I mean, like this is a really good graph here. Your cost is like down here, but that engine is worth a lot more to me because I can use it, you know, for my car to drive to work, right?
Mhm.
And so because your costs, because of your special skills and things like that, because you have a what we call comparative advantage in the production of engines, you have a lower cost of producing and I have a high value up here. So we can trade and you'll make some profit. I mean, if we look at the equilibrium price, right? Because you're not only competing against me, who is like a do-it-yourselfer, but against other mechanical engineers, right? So you can't completely, you know, charge me the highest possible price I would pay. You got to do something that's competitive based on the market. You end up charging the equilibrium price. Let's say it's $52 dollars per square centimeter of engine block or something, right? And your cost is $36 per cubic centimeter, and my value is $76. So we can trade. You'll make some profit, the difference between that trading price 52 and your cost of 36. So you make like 16 bucks. And I was willing to pay, it has a value to me because I got to get to work, 76, but I only have to pay 52. So I get a little bit of consumer surplus. And if you add that up across all the consumers for any specific quantity. So this one down here says, what are the gains of trading half of Q star? So there's Q star, and then which is like, it's almost 8, right? It's 7.9 units. So like here, there's 3.95 units, that's half. And you're right. So all of this, so if we go back and I do the new share and I go back to my whiteboard, then so you can see the whiteboard now, right, Matt?
Yes.
And then I go like, okay, let me get rid of that. And then I take your, so this is one half Q stars. You can see where Q star would be, right? I don't want to graph
Right.
it. And then half Q star, oh, dang it. I had my eraser on. So I'll just draw this. Oh, I still have the eraser on. Oh no. There, okay. So I'll draw this back. And here's my supply, and here's my producer surplus. And then, yeah, there's like a trapezoid here, right? Which is like at half Q, and it captures all of this consumer and producer surplus. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's the area of this trapezoid that you would be measuring which is the gains from trading half of the equilibrium quantity. So anyway, I don't, is that helpful or?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at, let's do the number 10. Now, I want to warn you all about something, and you'll see it here. This one actually is not bad, but like this one is. And hopefully everybody watches these videos. And again, what you want to do when you get a graph like this, notice this graph does not at all look like any of the pictures in your book, nor does it look like anything I've drawn in any of the videos that were posted. I'm not saying you can't do this type of problem, but you're making your life hard. You know, I would just resubmit until, and remember, still that one looks bad, right? Until I get one that looks normal. This looks closer to normal. There's still a little bit of an issue that these are squeezed together, but you can at least see, you know, as you go across where the points are. But yeah, I would go until, oh, this one looks a lot better. See, that one looks, new share, right? That one looks like our whiteboard graph, right? So, I mean, do you all agree, or did that looks better?
All the points are definitely more distinguishable.
Yeah. So I would only ever answer a question on a quiz or like a practice assignment that was like this, where I could see things. If it doesn't look like, I mean, that's part of where you bring your judgment. If the graph doesn't look good, you don't have to answer the question, right? And it'll help you too, because when you're doing the exam, you'll have these same graphs, and then it really counts for a lot of points. And why answer one that you don't like, right? That doesn't look good. So, and like this one looks, that was reasonably good too. Now this one looks bad, but whatever. Okay, so the graphs for the price floors look pretty good. I didn't do a price floor example, but I'll do one for you guys really quickly. So I'm gonna go back to the whiteboard, and you guys can see the whiteboard, right? That's
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So I'll do one for you really quick on the whiteboard for a price floor. And a price floor, again, do you know what our main example of a price floor is? Matt, since I was talking to you, I'll talk to you again. Price floor.
Like graphically, what the example, or like
No, like in the real world, can you think of a price floor?
I'd imagine there's some sort of price floor on like produce.
Well, okay. So remember the price floor, and hopefully you can see here, right? This is our standard sort of equilibrium price, P star. And I'll put on the graph our equilibrium quantity, Q star, right? And a price floor is going to look like this, where the government says, no, 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 you can't charge such a low price, right? We have to stop it, and there has to be a higher price for this thing. And you know, the best example, the one that's timely and comes up again and again. So this is going to be a P, and I'll put it with a little bound like that. So, you know, it's the underscore means it can't go lower than that, is the minimum wage.
That makes sense.
right? That's the one. The other one that comes up a lot is what we call rent control. But let's say, so suppose there was no minimum wage, right? What do you think would be the price at which labor would be traded for? The wage is the price of labor.
Whatever the equilibrium price is.
Yeah, but I mean, in your judgment, we live here in the United States today. What's the lowest wage do you think would just, organically happen in the market?
I'd imagine what it is now. Like
Okay. Oh, really? Okay. You don't think anybody would work for less than, I don't know, what's the wage now? It's like,
it's hard because it depends on where you live. I'd
yeah,
imagine live somewhere where things cost a lot less, it wouldn't make much of a difference to be a lot lower than that. But there's too many.
yeah. So you got to give me a number. Let's do a national minimum wage. What do you think? Because that's what they're proposing right now. They want to make $15 an hour the national minimum wage. What do you think is the lowest prevailing wage rate, or what would prevail if there was no minimum wage in our country?
$10.
You think $10 now? Okay, that's a good round number. Okay, and I can't, prove you right or wrong one way or the other, because it's a hypothetical. We don't know, Beverly, because we do have minimum wages, but notice again, we have the same sort of problem that we talked about, which is when there's a price regulation that takes us away from the equilibrium, then there's a mismatch between the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied. In this case, we call it a surplus, and a surplus in the labor market is called, anybody want to take a guess? It means a bunch of people want to work and they can't find a job.
Unemployment.
Yeah, it's called unemployment. So if you read about this in the newspaper, the debate over the current minimum wage proposal that's going through Congress is that they think it's going to make it harder for people to get back to work post-pandemic in a lot of places where wages right now are lower. So you might have read, did anybody read about, there's a particular Democratic senator who needs to vote for the minimum wage proposal for it to pass. And he said that he really doesn't think he wants to vote for it. Does anybody know who that is?
Joe Manchin?
Yeah. Who said that?
That's Matt.
That was Matt. Okay. And you know where he's from?
I forget.
Some state, someplace, right? Flyover country. That's what we say, anything between California and New York, right? Red state. Yeah. So it's West Virginia, right? And everybody knows that West Virginia is a center for innovation and high tech, and right?
Really? I thought they were in the back of it.
No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I mean, obviously, so wages in West Virginia are, like I guess the current minimum wage at the federal level, if I remember correctly, it's $7.25 an hour. A lot of people make $7.25 an hour, and because have you guys ever done gone on Zillow? That's the real estate website, Zillow.
Houses in different places.
Yeah. My wife calls it real estate porn, because you can go and see these beautiful houses and dream and all the rest of it that are in Georgia and West Virginia, and they're like $99,000, $150,000. I mean, like what you pay for a couple of Teslas, right? So the only reason why I bring it up is the cost of living in a lot of places is so low because the rent's cheaper, that people, do fine on $7 an hour. So, suddenly what they're worried about is taking a lot of the people that they call them, low wage occupations. Who knows what they're doing back in West Virginia, but places like, maybe they're, um,
They're
you know,
mining for stones.
yeah, or they're recycling soybeans, or who knows, doing something like that. And it's kind of like low skill, low wage work that if you make them suddenly charge $15 an hour, then a lot of those industries might just go away. They might not be able to support that kind of a price. It was a big concern back in, the 1980s and 90s, that because our wages were relatively high, that a lot of work could no longer be done in the United States, and that you guys might have heard of the term outsourcing, but they were basically forcing companies to relocate overseas in lower wage markets because the wage constraints in the United States meant that those jobs weren't profitable to do here. Companies couldn't do them and keep going. So anyway, the main point is, yeah, that sort of stuff is the concern. And when we look at the welfare impacts, then I'll show you again. What happens is, in this case, the sellers, excuse me, I mismatched my colors for demand and supply. So let me go back, because we use blue for demand and red for supply. So let me change these around. So I want to be consistent with the other graphs that I've drawn and with the stuff that's in your book. Generally, is blue is for men. Okay, so now we have a bunch of employers who are buyers, right? They buy labor, and households, people like you and me, we sell our labor. And now businesses don't want to buy very much in the labor market, but a lot of people want to work, right? Because of the minimum wage. And ultimately what happens is, again, just because a lot of people want to work, you can't force the employers to hire them. So you end up with an equilibrium quantity that is what the buyers want to buy in this market. So I'm going to put my line right there, and I'm going to call this Q underscore, right? And then if we look at the consumer surplus now is going to be this little triangle up here. Okay. Consumers, in this case, it's the businesses or the consumers of labor, but consumers face this high price, and they don't have, there aren't very many that are willing to pay more than that. And then the producer surplus ends up being this trapezoid down here, which basically means in the labor market, if you're somebody who keeps your job and you get paid more, then of course you're better off, right? And then we have a similar concept of deadweight loss, which is these jobs that would have been in the market and generating profits and benefits for workers that no longer exist. That's the deadweight loss. Okay. Any questions about that? Because we can go back to Ignition now really quickly. Okay, so we have a triangle again, a trapezoid, and another triangle. Those are mostly what we're going to be calculating. And again, if you go and you look at the stuff that I told you before, you just have to look on the graphs and you have to, you know, pull out the points that correspond to the, you know, for this particular trapezoid, there's this base, which is the difference between the price ceiling price and this intercept term for supply. And then there's this base, which is the other base of the trapezoid. And and then there's the distance between them, which is the height of the trapezoid. And then you all should be able to figure out the triangles in order to estimate those areas when you need to. Okay, any questions? Okay, so now let's go back to the homework. So here, this question number 1, well, okay, I want to do something else really quickly. So that's the quiz. I want to point out there were a few people, so this is the practice. Now notice again on the practice, there are practice problems, but there are only 5 of them, and we have 10 quiz questions. So the practice problems will help you with part, but not all, right? So you have to kind of, you know, match up which ones are there in practice and which ones are in the homework if you want to practice those particular problems. But that's just to get you going so you can begin to have some confidence when you're measuring consumer surplus. So this says, so there's a price floor and we want to measure the consumer surplus. Can you see, Beverly, can you see the consumer surplus triangle?
Yes.
Yeah, so here would be the
$98.
right, and then the height of that triangle goes down to 75.67.
7.
And then the base is over here, which is 3.72. So can you see that? So,
Yeah,
so let's go ahead and I have my calculator here. You have your calculator. Let's go ahead and calculate it. And so I have 98 minus 75.67. Okay, and I get 22.33. And then I'm going to do times 3.72, right? And then times 0.5 because it's a triangle.
It's 41.53.
Yeah, that's what I got. So I'm going to type that in, 41.53, and hit submit. And I don't know, but let's see. That's the big feedback equation. I'll copy it and paste it. Equals. Okay, 41.56. So it's off a little bit more, and I think this is because of rounding error, but I just want to pay attention for a minute. So, and I'm not sure that we did anything wrong, but I want to give you some assurance that if you had 41, and I said it'll automatically score 0.54 and 0.52 correct, but if you had this 41.56, don't worry, because remember when I score at the end, I told you I would open it up so it could be, you know, as long as you have 41.5, you're fine. You're going to get that one correct. So I don't want anybody to worry that there's, you know, a big rounding error issue here, because there really isn't.
Okay. Yeah, I did that last time too, but it did it considered it correct. So.
Yeah, as long as it's reasonably close, you should be fine. I say it's within a penny because I don't want anybody to think, you would be really surprised, but there are a lot of students who would think that they could just put 41 in and that's close enough, and it's not. you know, you have to be reasonably close. But anyway, I wonder, actually, I'll look really quickly. I don't know if I answered this one before. I'll go under my grades and I go to 10 and let's see if it scored it correct for me. Oh, hold on, wait a minute. Back. Yeah, I only answered one and it says I'm correct. So that was close enough.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll go back again. And so here we are. Okay. So, and let's try to do one of the other ones. So producer surplus. So this is going to be one of the ones that's the trapezoid, right? So for the trapezoid, I don't know if you can see the trapezoid that's the producer surplus, but there's one base and then here's the other base, right? And then we get the height from the distance between those two bases, which is given by the number of units, which is 2.85. Can you see what I'm talking about, Beverly?
Mm-hmm.
So there's base 1, base 2, and then the height.
Minus 30.
So yeah, so you want to go through the calculation really quickly and we'll just verify it and see how we do. So I'm gonna do for base 1, I'm gonna do 67.05 minus
30 equals
30
37.
minus 30. So yeah, that's base 1 plus base 2, which is again 67.05, and the quantity, I mean the price there for the second base is where this price floor crosses the demand curve, because that's going to be the quantity that the buyers purchase, and the height of the supply curve there is 38.585. So I'm going to do minus 38.55. So that's the sum of the two bases, and I get 65.55 for the sum of those two bases. Is that what you got too?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I'm gonna take that. Yeah, then I'm just gonna multiply by 0.5 because it's the same thing, right? And then I'm gonna multiply it by the height, which I can see there is the distance between the two bases is from here to there, and it's 2.85 units times 2.85, and what do you get?
It's 93.40.
Yeah, that's what I get.
Should
I got 93.40. And if you want, you could put, you know, I have 875. It doesn't really matter. If you wanted to put 41, it would be fine. And let's do the submit. And then now I got this big feedback equation again. I'm going to copy the whole thing. Copy, and I'm going to paste it in there. And yeah, we're right on.
Yay.
Yay. Okay. So that's the sort of thing. It says, so here's the dead weight loss. Now we've got this triangle, and there's the base and there's the height. I'll let you guys, girls, you all figure that one out, because I have confidence you should be able to do it now.
So now we just calculate the triangle, right?
Yeah, so this is that triangle that I showed you before, right? Can you see I'm pointing it out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then again, and I hit one like this, I would go ahead and refresh and try to get a better version, because I can't really see what's going on. This one is still ugly, so I would keep going. And that one's a bad one too. These price ceiling ones, this one's better because I can at least see there, right? So but you know, notice they're talking about producer surplus, and that's a really, really small area there. So I would actually even try to refresh it again to get like a better one. And okay, now we're talking turkey. This one actually looks good, right? This looks like our example that I drew for you. And now you can
Yeah.
see the producer surplus triangle down here. And it's big enough that, you know, we should be able to calculate it without much rounding error, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to do this one just for fun as a final one? Let's see who else we have here. Does anybody else want to help out with this one? Noah, do you want to help?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we're calculating the producer surplus for number 4, and can you see there's the price ceiling at 40.83? So the base of that triangle would be 40.83 minus the intercept there is at 15, and then it's going to be times the height of this triangle, and right there it's 6.46 units. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can.
No. Times 0.5. And what did you get?
Hold on, I'm doing it right now. 40.83. Is that 40.83 times 15? Wait, no,
Well, it's
minus
15.
Minus 15 times 6.46 divided by 2. It's 83.43.
Yeah, that's what I get. I get 83.43.
Yeah.
Submit. And again, we have our feedback equation. And I'm going to paste it there and equal to, oh,
Whoa.
hold on, wait a minute. Hold on, wait a minute. I probably, when this happens normally, it's because I copied and pasted and I missed a parentheses someplace. So let's try it again. Because I really don't, wow. So I'll have to say that I have to go back and check this one for number 4. I gotta make sure I'm doing it right. Oh, see, this happened. Yeah, so you know, honestly, so I think I goofed up because, and this happens sometimes, right? So we've got question graph, question graph, question graph, question graph. So it should be there, right? How much producer surplus? Oh, you know what? Let's see. Oh, so price. Price. Yeah, so this one is goofy because it says that it is price floor and it's a price ceiling. Oh.
Yeah, I just got that one wrong too.
Yeah, that's weird. I have to take a note. So do me a favor, Noah. Go ahead and send me an email.
Okay.
And we'll go through, we'll check the rest of these. Normally, if I have one that is completely goofy, I don't know if I can drop it and add another one because I already have these set up, and most of them are fine. You know, I've been through all of them. But if this sort of thing happens, what I would normally do is just drop this question. Like if somebody, like if you emailed me and you're like, oh, Dr. Hunter, it says it's a price floor, but it should be a price ceiling. And, you know, there's a problem on number 4. I would just drop it from from the assignment, meaning like it'd be out of 9 instead of out of 10. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, email me about that one and I'll try to see if I can fix it really quickly. And if I can't, but let's see the rest of these. So this says price floor.
It's number
You know what?
4, 5, and then 8 through 10.
You know what? Hold on. Wait a minute. I think I made a mistake. Let's do one other thing, right? So, and what kind of goofed me up is that I'm used to seeing the yellow here, right, for the price floor, right? But if this is a price floor, right, then it would be non-binding. Remember, we talked about this in the lectures and the videos. The first step of your analysis is to see if the price floor or price ceiling would be binding. Okay, and I skipped that step. I just went and said, oh, well, this must be a price ceiling. But if it really is a price floor, if you set a price floor below the equilibrium price, it does nothing, right? So let's do one more calculation really quickly. So our regular producer surplus would be this triangle here. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Right, so let's calculate that triangle. That triangle is based, and just in case nobody, I'll draw it really quickly. Okay, so what we're talking about is, you guys can see the whiteboard, right?
Yeah, we can.
Mhm.
So what we're talking about is, and I'm gonna get rid of the purple too. Oh, okay. So draw black. Okay. So what we're talking about is just this regular triangle here. So we need P star and we need Q star, and we need this intercept term to calculate the hopefully everybody can see what I'm talking about now, to calculate this base and this height of the triangle. Okay, so, and I'm going to go back. So you see what I'm talking about, Noah?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so now I'm going to go back here and let's check our answer. So here's the equilibrium price. It's 81.67. So actually, I'm glad we did this one because I was just going to skip forward. And actually, I do know, again, not everybody's doing a good job of keeping up with all the lectures because I know it's a lot of material, but I know that I've talked about binding and non-binding in the context of price ceilings and price floors in the main lecture that's recorded. So it's 81.67 minus 15 is that base, and then the height is going to be the equilibrium quantity, which is times 16.67 times.
The answer is 555 point.
Yes.
Yeah, that's our number.
Yeah. So yeah, if we'd calculated, if we had said, oh, this price floor is below the equilibrium price, so it's non-binding. So that's non-binding. This one as a price floor is non-binding. So this one is going to be, it's a little tricky, but it's actually pretty easy. I'll let you guys think about it. But they're saying if it's non-binding, it doesn't disturb the market. If it doesn't disturb the market, then it, and I don't know if it's on the practice one. Let's see, here's the practice. No, it's not on the practice. So, okay.
55.69.
Well, no, if it's non-binding, there should be no deadweight loss, right?
Mm.
Non-binding means it does nothing. And there's our feedback.
No, okay.
Okay. Non-binding would be something like this. Let me give you guys a quick example, right?
So,
If the government had a minimum wage of a penny per hour, right? Just 1 penny, everybody's going to get paid more than a penny, right? Do you see what I mean, Noah?
Yeah, I do.
So it has no impact.
Hmm.
It's a meaningless price regulation. Do you see what I mean, Beverly?
okay, did we move from number 4 to number 5?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Number 5, right? We're talking about deadweight loss.
yeah, deadweight loss for
So
number
just
5.
recap. So if the price ceiling is below the equilibrium, that means it's non-binding, and that means there is no deadweight loss.
Yeah, it does nothing. It's just
Okay.
a regular market equilibrium. So,
The ceiling or the floor?
oh yeah. This is a non-binding price floor here.
Right.
Right.
But if the ceiling's under the equilibrium, then it does something.
Yeah, that's why you have to keep track, right? You have these cases. You have, and I'll just put it on the whiteboard, right? Okay, you guys can see the whiteboard, right?
Yeah.
And again, this is mentioned in the main lecture, but this might save you a little bit of time, so we'll talk about it really quickly. You have these cases, right? For, you know, here's the ceiling and the floor, and for both of them, they can be binding and binding, or they could both be non-binding. Okay. And you have to look because for a non-binding ceiling, oh, hold on, wait a minute. For a non-binding ceiling, right, the price ceiling, and I'll look for my little caret, is greater than P star or equal to, but I'll just put greater. And for a non-binding floor, which is P underscore, it's going to be less than P star, right? And each of them is the other case. So if you have P hat, which is less than P star, that's binding. And if you have P underscore, which is greater, a floor, that's, let me make sure I have this right. Price. So let me make sure I have my inequalities the right way first before I say all this, okay? So a binding price ceiling, yeah, it caps the price below the equilibrium price. So that one's right. A binding price floor, yeah, has a price above the equilibrium price. So those are the yeah, I have all the inequalities the right way. And in these cases, non-binding means no impact on the market, right? No impact on market. So does that make sense? Are you guys, do you feel clearer now?
Yes, that helps a lot.
Okay. Okay. So I think we're pretty good. Like I said, you'll just have to be careful when you go through these to check if they're binding or non-binding. So this is a price ceiling. So it switches from a non-binding price floor to a price ceiling. So my intuition is that most of these will be binding, and then it goes to non-binding price ceilings. So, which look like price floors, but they're non-binding. Okay. So I'm glad we got a chance to talk about that, because you all should be able to handle it then, since you know that the non-binding versions don't have any impact.
Do you still want me to send that email regarding question 4?
No, because we found out that it's just fine.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna stop share and